Hello, geeks of the internet, and what's this? Looks to me like I am following up on something I said I would do. I am actually making 2 Good, the Bad, and the Ugly videos this month. I'm so great at this. You should feel proud of me for this. That's settled. I'm Geeky Guy. This is the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Let's get into it. Okay. It's time for a divisive film that, after a long deliberation, will be put in the good. Turning Red. If there was any film that I've reviewed in this series that I really think deserves a solo review, besides Good Omens, it's this. So many people have so many thoughts about this film, it's kinda crazy that a Pixar film was this divisive. I'll go into why later, but let's look at the actual film first. It's about May, a Canadian teenager that occasionally turns into a very large red panda. Already before the film, I was a little concerned. This is a very weird film idea. And shockingly, I kinda love it. It's a slice-of-life-y sort of film that doesn't really have too complex of a plot. It's just that she wants to go to a concert with her friends without being found out by her parents. And it's charming, but I think the stakes could have been a bit higher. It doesn't have to be a world-ending sort of thing. With this very out-there plot idea, there could have been something a bit more, I guess. It is a great-looking film, I will definitely acknowledge that. It tries to do a very cartoony thing that many didn't like, but I liked the film. Even so, after watching it, I felt kinda dissatisfied, but I couldn't work out why. This happens to me quite often, if I'm going to be honest. I have a lot of thoughts about films, I just don't know how to work out what they are. Often when this happens, I turn to other reviews of the film, hoping that I'll find a criticism that really resonates with me. I recently watched a bunch of reviews about Turning Red, I'll link some down below, and some of the criticisms that I found really resonated with me. Whilst looking at reviews for this film, I found some of the most bananas reviews ever. I read too many reviews, all saying that this film was bad because it teaches you to disobey your parents. Did you watch the thing? The message is basically about being yourself no matter what, that kind of stuff. The people who have these opinions about the film are part of the problem. I should point out, if you haven't seen the film, this is a film with sort of a metaphor for puberty. That's not the whole thing, but it's part of it. And as such, because this PG film has something that is too grown up, it was slammed online. Great. Why can't puberty be in a film without people automatically hating it for one reason or another? It's either too mature or not relatable enough. Ah, yes. The most extraordinarily odd criticism so far. It's not relatable enough. I have some weird thoughts on relatability in films. A film not being relatable doesn't take anything away from me. Thor Ragnarok is my favorite film, and shockingly, I don't relate to that all that much. But if it is relatable, it probably will heighten the experience for you. A lot of people do, and good for them. So why are people posting dumb reviews online on how it's only for one specific audience? I won't get too far into that. But what criticisms do I agree with on this film? Well, one major one from Shaffellis Productions video. The fact that this film is tonally kinda wacky. It's pretty fun. I like the characters, especially May and her friends, because I feel like I know them. They're very well written for early teenagers. This is the relatable thing I was talking about. I wouldn't dislike the characters if I didn't feel like I knew them, but they make me like them more. They definitely do teenage quirkiness well. It's just that, unfortunately, I feel like some of this quirkiness kinda overshadows the emotional beats in the film. They do some pretty great comedy, and the animation and concept only build on that. But as I said, the fact that it's such a wacky film is that it doesn't work with the emotional moments. A film can work in wacky with emotional beats, like with Mitchells vs. the Machines or Luca. But, I don't know, you really have to drop the wacky to some extent in order to actually deliver a good emotional moment. The ending has pretty nice emotional moments, between parts of the weirdest ending for a film I've ever seen in my life. Basically, there's a third act fallout where May is just a really horrible human being, and I think what she does works with that character pretty well, but I'll let you watch it to work that out for yourself. Then her parents Then her mum tries to do a ritual to have the magic panda removed, and May doesn't really want to do that for reasons explained mostly in the second act. So then May's dad has one of the best scenes in the film, giving her advice before the ritual. Then next, obviously, is the ritual, where May decides to stop the ritual and go after her friends. And for whatever reason, this makes May's mum so very angry that her panda spirit escapes and turns her into an enormous red panda kaiju. What is going on? So naturally, May's mother comes to the stadium where the Backstreet Boys ripoff is performing and destroys the stadium. Just obliterates it. Attacks the band members, drives the concert attendees away. All stuff that is morally reprehensible and also illegal, but is largely forgotten about. So yeah. May's mother then tries to attack May to get rid of the panda, but is stopped by May dancing. I thought I was watching a Pixar movie. Turns out I am watching Trolls. I'm not actually annoyed about this, I just think it's kinda dumb. So yeah, after some more dancing, some more violence, some more collateral damage, some more illegal things, May's mother is knocked to the ground and a ritual has to be performed to get rid of the giant Godzilla panda. So May's family all turn into red pandas to help drag May's mother into the ritual circle. So yeah, cool moment with the family banding together. And the thingy with the ritual is that in order for it to work, you have to sing. And because the panda's so big, you have to sing really, really loudly. How will they possibly achieve this? It's not like they're at a concert or anything. So yeah, it's pretty obvious what happens. May's friends and the Backstreet Boys ripoff save the day by singing! So yeah, then there's another nice scene and May's mother gets off without charge after nearly killing thousands of people. Fun. That's pretty much it. I skipped over a lot, specifically the second act and the whole transformation, but I feel like I covered most of the important stuff. Obviously, this really won't be the full picture. As I said, a film being relatable will probably heighten the experience, so I'd recommend some reviews by people that actually relate to some of the themes in the film. In summary, this film is objectively pretty good. I just don't particularly like it. So I'll probably say about 7 out of 10, which is pretty good as far as films go. And I'll probably put it here on the tier list. Next, The Bad. Oh dear. I thought it was gone. I really, really did. But apparently, no. Ice Age is back with the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. The worst part of this film is that it exists. Like, a couple of years ago, Blue Sky went under. It was bought by Disney. So it shocks me that for whatever reason, Disney is still keeping this incredibly tiring franchise going. They're not even making much money off of this. This is a streaming original. Okay, so let's talk about the actual film. It's about Crash and Eddie, who are probably characters from the previous films. But I wouldn't know. I've only seen the 5th film, and I don't remember it super well. And they are thrill seekers that are also the slowest possums ever mentally. They are so incredibly thick, which is their only real character trait. Basically, they're the same character. And they're both bored of living with the protagonists from the last movie, Manny, Diego, Sid the Amazing, and Ellie. Yes, I remember their names. Yes, it's off the top of my head. Yes, I'm ashamed of myself. They are so bored that they decide to leave the comfort of their home and go to the dinosaur place from the 3rd film. But they only really decide to leave because they blew up a mountain. They don't just cause an avalanche by blowing the ice off the mountain, they actually destroy the actual mountain itself. They go off and leave their family to seek adventure. Wow, this film really likes to hammer in the point of family. Nothing particularly meaningful or consistent about family. They just want you to keep that word in mind. Yeah, so they show up in the Lost World and immediately get attacked and get saved by the only remaining Ice Age cast member, Buck Wild. Something funny about this film is that not even the cast cares. The actors for the main characters from the last movies are gone, which makes sense. They don't really need the original actors for the part they have. But the actors for Crash and Eddie are gone too. The only actor left is Simon Pegg, who plays Buck Wild. Wow, this is such a sad little film. And yeah, the Lost World's under threat. Gasp. Apparently some dinosaur with a comically large brain, whose name I have now forgotten, wants to get rid of all the mammals in the Lost World. And he does that by locking all of the mammals in. Apparently it's so no more mammals can get into the Lost World, but now no mammals can get out. For someone with such a comically enormous brain, surely he would have thought this out. Yeah, so a very cliche villain, a generic bad guy that is clearly smarter than the protagonist and makes jokes about how stupid the protagonist is. It's not bad stuff, but it's certainly not good stuff. So yeah, the heroes run away into another funny little plot contrivance. Basically, Buck has a pterodactyl that would make the events of this film significantly easier for the heroes to get through, and would make the film much shorter. But Buck says that it's not safe for the pterodactyl. Why? This villain is only going for the mammals. It would be almost entirely safe and would help defeat the villain and make the film much shorter. And we can't have that. So yeah, that scene ends and various dumb kinds of shenanigans ensue. Until we introduce another character, Z, who is also very cliche and is the missing piece character. That one that beats the villains extremely easily and is sort of at odds with the heroes to some extent. You know the character, the wild style from the Lego movie equivalent. And more stuff happens. They try to do a few emotional moments and inevitably fail. And we get to the ending, which I have shockingly little to say about compared to a lot of other films, because there isn't much to say at all. The villain has a big speech and gets defeated, generic stuff, which isn't bad, but it is when it's paired with all of the other issues I have with this film in general. Okay, there are two major problems that really plague this film. Issue 1, the script, and issue 2, the graphics. These two issues join together to create a perfect storm of awfulness, if you will. Let's first look at the script and general things along those lines. I've said earlier that they attempt at emotional moments, often to do with the theme of family. And they are quite weak, but that all stems from the fact that I care so little about the characters. Crash and Eddie are comic relief characters that for whatever reason have become the central characters. And I must ask, why? This has been proven to not work. Cars 2 did the same thing, and look how that turned out. If you're doing the same things as Cars 2, you really need to rethink your life decisions. Z is alright, as I said, a Wild Style equivalent, but less entertaining than Wild Style. Buck Wild is entertaining enough, but that ultimately boils down to the performance rather than the comedy and writing. The comedy is real 5-year-old stuff, but I do think they're trying to do a bit more, because there's a shocking lack of toilet humor for what this franchise is. However, what they choose to do instead isn't awesome either. The jokes are all made at the expense of Crash and Eddie's lack of intellect, or Buck Wild's insanity? Like, the fact that his daughter is a pumpkin and his babysitter is a cucumber.
Very, very funny!
What a hilarious joke. Ha! Ha! And the jokes about Crash and Eddie's stupidity are so bad. They're so mind-numbingly stupid when the script wants them to be. But this is inconsistent. Like, they seem to be relatively smart throughout the rest of the film. They only really do the stupid things when it will help boost the comedy. Okay, fine. Why? So yeah, the rest of the script is pretty similar. Not much more to say about that. So let's look at the graphics. The graphics are very nasty looking. The characters look almost robotic when they move, and there's always some weird lighting going on. I can't explain it, but it almost feels like one of those Crimes Against Humanity films like Ratatouille. Somehow, when Blue Sky went down, this film took steps backward. Collision Course is the only one I've seen, and people think that's pretty bad, but I've looked at it again, and whilst I'm unsure about the writing, it really does look better. They have actively taken steps backward. Okay, that's basically all to say about this film. This is a bad film in general, but if you think of this as a young kids film, and only that, then it's alright. Either way, not good, but So 4 out of 10, a very mediocre outing and a very mediocre franchise. At least it's probably the last Ice Age thing. No! No! No, please! Please! No.
Breaking news, Geeky Guy has unfortunately passed away. To give the full death report, Arnold Schwarzenegger from Batman and Robin.
What killed
Geeky Guy.
Ice Age?
What was I talking about? Oh, right. The Ugly. We're returning to Netflix once more with The Adam Project, a film that I have extremely mixed thoughts about. It's directed by Free Guy director Sean Levy and stars Free Guy star Ryan Reynolds. If only I was watching Free Guy instead. I'm joking, of course. I don't think it's that bad, and neither do most other people. And it's about Ryan Reynolds, aka Adam, who is a time traveler who goes back in time to meet Walter Scobell, aka Adam. Oh no, it's a time travel film. This film further proves my theory that anyone and everyone can at any point in time have a sudden and highly painful urge to make a time travel film. I'm going to call this hypothesis proven. This whole plot is fueled by relatively inconsistent time travel mechanics. Like, it seems like it's the butterfly effect time travel, so the original Back to the Future mechanics. If someone does something in the past, it changes in the same timeline in the present. But they also kind of mess with everything. Towards the end. When all is resolved and the timeline should be corrected, nothing happens for like 5 minutes in order to have an emotional moment. They sort of explain it by saying, oh, the timeline's just correcting. Sure, buddy. Sure. Why are they using the same time travel mechanics as Meet the Robinsons? Good question. I should talk more about the actual plot, shouldn't I? Basically, old Adam has got back in time in order to find his wife, who mysteriously disappeared on a mission. That's not shady at all. And basically, some people don't want him to find his wife, namely Maya Sorian, and they don't really try to hide super well that she's the villain. It's pretty obvious. Which is not a bad thing, it's just that she's not really a super secret villain. And when traveling back in time to find Adam's wife, he crashes in 2022 and meets his past self, who reminds me of young Anakin Skywalker. This is not a good thing. So yeah, shenanigans ensue, generic stuff that is pretty funny. Not awesome, but pretty good. Unfortunately, the pacing in the coming scenes are so wacky. Before old Adam arrives, everything's going relatively slow, and then as soon as old Adam arrives, Anakin Skywalker catches on to the fact that Ryan Reynolds is him. It's just kind of weird how fast it moves. I don't really think it's a character thing, just a writing whoopsie, but it's more of a nitpick than anything else. And then some more quirky things, yada yada yada. They get attacked, Adam's wife shows up, Adam's wife dies. Sure. And they go back in time again to find Adam's dead father, aka Mark Ruffalo, to stop Saurian's evil plan. And this is where the best part of the film is. Some really quite emotional moments with Mark Ruffalo combined with some fairly funny moments as well. And they pull off the plan in a very creative and honestly brilliant looking way. I should point out the graphics, which is one of the best parts of this film. They look really cool and complement the fight scenes nicely. But there are some inconsistencies with how the weapons work. When armored soldiers are shot, they explode into puffs of energy. And when Maya gets shot at the end, her older self explodes with the same energy. But when Adam gets shot, he just starts bleeding. He's wearing no armor. The soldiers that he fights are basically just stormtroopers. So yeah, there's the weird inconsistency moment that I mentioned earlier, but it's a pretty nice moment. And then all of the timeline errors are resolved. Let's talk about the general stuff. I think the comedy is fun. I like its dry, sarcastic sort of thing, but I can't help using toilet humor and cheap gags to fall back on, which works, sort of. It just feels really out of place in this movie. The emotional stuff is pretty nice, one of the best parts of the film. The pacing is a little wonky. I found the beginning of the film's pacing quite jarring and it really took me out of it weirdly. I think the graphics are really, really nice looking, and the sci-fi time travel elements were weird, but they work pretty well. So yeah, I liked the film. It was pretty nice. And strangely, whilst I think this film is just objectively worse than Turning Red, I kind of enjoyed it around on the same level. So I'll give this a 6 and put it around here on the tier list. You should be very proud of me, guys. I managed to finally fulfill my promise to have 2 The Good, the Bad, and the Uglies in 1 month. I think that's it. Make sure to like and subscribe, leave a comment if you want, and thanks so much for watching this far.